Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're leaving the ordinary behind and stepping into the extraordinary world of TJ Klune's Somewhere Beyond the Sea.
Instead of getting lost in a typical plot summary, we're going deep,
Okay.
using excerpts to unlock the heart of this story, the characters, the emotional core, the moments that stay with you, well, long after you finish the last page. Ready to unpack themes of family, acceptance, and fighting for what you believe in, all with a touch of magic. Let's dive in.
Picture this. Marsyas Island. Not your average tropical paradise, but a secluded haven where Arthur Parnassus has created a sanctuary for magical children who don't fit in anywhere else.
Right.
Imagine a place where a sea slug plotting revenge via cucumber is just another Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's Marsyas Island.
Yeah.
And for these kids, it's the first real safety they've known.
What's fascinating here is that the island isn't just a whimsical setting. It's a reflection of Arthur's own past, his own experiences as a magical child facing prejudice and misunderstanding. Remember those Dasami orphanages we've talked about? Those institutions supposed to care for magical youth? Arthur experienced that system firsthand, the abuse, the isolation, the feeling of being othered.
And that's where the story gets really interesting for me. Because you see, his overprotectiveness, that's not just Arthur being strict, that's his own Harush past pain, echoing in how fiercely he guards these kids. He's not just giving them a home, he's building the haven he never had.
Speaking of the kids, Klune doesn't hold back on creating a cast of characters that are as diverse as they are lovable.
Oh, yeah?
You've got Theodore, a sarcastic wyvern with a penchant for shiny buttons. And let's be real, who doesn't love a good button collection? Then there's Lucy, a young boy grappling with the belief that he's possessed by a demon. Though from the excerpts, it seems he's more interested in musical theater than summoning dark forces.
This detail always makes me wonder, is Lucy truly possessed? Or is this a coping mechanism? A way to make sense of a world that labels him inherently bad because of his magic.
Right. It's one of those subtle details that make you realize how much Klune layers into these characters. And we can't forget Fee, a forest sprite who can talk to trees, imagine the gossip. And Chauncey, our chaotic good sea slug with a penchant for elaborate revenge schemes against his ex who left him for, wait for it, a sea cucumber.
This is where Klune's genius shines through. He takes these fantastical creatures, a wyvern, a sea slug who owns a yacht, and gives them such human, relatable struggles and quirks.
Totally. And then into this already lively mix arrives David, a young Yeti who arrives carrying the weight of his own past trauma. Seeing him slowly let down his guard, embrace his Yetiness, and find his place within this unconventional family. It really tugs at your heartstrings.
And this is where the theme of found family takes center stage. They might not share blood, but they share something much deeper understanding: acceptance. It's messy, it's chaotic, it's a chorus of unique voices, but it's bound together by an incredible amount of love.
Klune has this knack for capturing those little moments that make a family, the inside jokes, the shared glances. You feel like you're eavesdropping on a real family, even with a wyvern demanding extra shiny buttons at breakfast.
Like, there's this scene where Chauncey decides he wants to be the captain of a yacht for the day. Of course, his yacht is actually a rowboat with a bedsheet for a sail.
That image just makes me smile. And it's so perfectly Klune, taking these fantastical elements and grounding them in the universal experience of childhood imagination.
Exactly. And to make it even better, Lucy and Talia are assigned as the official fanning and grape feeding crew, as central roles on any high seas adventure, obviously. Meanwhile, Theodore, the ever-dramatic wyvern, is convinced he needs a pink floaty to be the figurehead, despite being a perfectly capable swimmer.
It's moments like this that showcase Klune's ability to use humor to explore deeper themes. On the surface, it's a silly, heartwarming scene. But underneath, it speaks to the power of play, of finding joy, even in the midst of difficult circumstances.
Couldn't have put it better myself. But as you might expect, this idyllic life on Marsyas Island can't stay peaceful forever.
Oh no.
Enter Miss Marblemaw, the government inspector. And she is not here for Chauncey's yachting escapades. She's on a mission to prove that Arthur is a danger to the children and that they should be removed from his care. Her arrival throws Arthur's carefully constructed haven into disarray, and it's like watching a dark cloud descend over the island.
Yeah.
This is where my stomach started to twist a little, you know? Because suddenly, it's not just a fun adventure, it's Arthur's worst fear coming true.
Yeah.
We see him grappling with his own past trauma, the fear of losing the children, echoing his own experiences in the Dasami orphanage.
And this is where the novel transcends the realm of pure fantasy and holds a mirror up to some uncomfortable truths about our own world. Klune isn't just telling a whimsical tale, he's weaving in real-world issues of prejudice, discrimination, and the abuse of power, especially against those who are different.
It's like, what if the X-Men were targeted not by giant robots, but by paperwork and regulations? You see that in how the government demonizes magical beings, portraying them as a threat to be controlled, contained.
Right.
One thing that really resonated with me was how the entire community rallies around Arthur and the children. It really underscores the idea that true acceptance isn't passive. It's about actively supporting each other, standing up for what's right, especially when it's difficult.
It's that sense of community, of fierce love and loyalty that gives the story its emotional weight and ultimately its hope. It's a powerful message showing that even when faced with a system that seems determined to break them, solidarity and love can be a force for change.
Absolutely. It's in the way the villagers shut down the reporters trying to stir up fear, how Merle, the gruff ferryman, becomes this unlikely protector, refusing to transport any government officials to the island. Even J-Bone, with his eccentricities, becomes this pillar of support, his record shop a haven of normalcy amid the chaos. Klune doesn't shy away from showing the ugliness of prejudice, the fear that fuels it. But he also shows us its antidote: love, acceptance, and the unwavering support of a community that chooses to embrace those who are different, not fear them. He does all of this with humor, with heart, with a touch of magic that leaves you feeling like you found a little bit of your own haven within the pages of his book.
What's striking is how Klune weaves together the personal and the political. He shows how systemic prejudice plays out in the lives of these characters, how it impacts their sense of self, their relationships, their very ability to exist in the world.
And he does it in a way that's both thought-provoking and deeply moving. You find yourself cheering for these characters, not just because they're magical, but because they represent something profoundly human. The desire to be loved, accepted, and celebrated for who they truly are. But this is just the beginning. We've only just scratched the surface of what makes Somewhere Beyond the Sea such a powerful and timely story. Get ready, because things are about to get even more intense.
You know, it's like watching a storm brewing, right? You've got this calm, idyllic life Arthur's built on Marsyas Island. And then this encroaching force of dealchemy, represented by Miss Marblemont, who seems determined to disrupt everything.
And it becomes this fascinating clash of ideologies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On one hand, you have Arthur and his belief in individuality and letting these children be their authentic selves. And on the other hand, you have Diakemi with its rigid rules and regulations, trying to fit everyone into the same mold.
And what's interesting is that Klune doesn't present Arthur as this perfect hero.
No.
He's deeply flawed,
Right.
still grappling with his own demons from his time in the Daikami system. We see his anger, his fear, and how those emotions almost threaten to consume him.
Especially when Marblemont starts digging into his past, right? It's like she's poking at a wound that never fully healed. And Arthur's reaction, it's raw, it's visceral. You can't help but feel for him even as you recognize the danger of his unchecked anger.
Exactly, and that's what makes him such a compelling character. He's not this one-dimensional savior. He's a man battling his own demons while trying to protect these children from facing the same pain.
And it's not just Arthur who's struggling. We see the impact of Daikami's intrusion on everyone, the children, even with their resilience. They start to question themselves, their place in the world.
Especially David.
Oh, David.
He's already so vulnerable, carrying the weight of his past trauma, and then Marblemont, with her casual cruelty, she zeroes in on him, tries to use his Yeti nature against him.
That scene in the village square where she tries to drag David away, accusing him of being a danger. It's gut-wrenching. You see the fear in his eyes, the way he shrinks back.
But it's also a pivotal moment because that's when the community really shows its strength. They surround David, forming a protective barrier between him and Marblemont. It's like they're saying, we won't let you hurt him, not this one, not anymore.
And it's not just the villagers. Even the island itself seems to rise up in defiance. Remember that eerie fog that rolls in? That sudden shift in the wind?
Klune masterfully uses those natural elements to mirror the escalating tension, the sense that something big is about to happen. It's like the island itself is a character, and it's angry.
Right. And then, just when you think things can't get any more intense, Zoe steps forward.
Oh.
Quiet, unassuming Zoe, who we've mostly seen flitting around tending to her gardens. Suddenly, she's not just Zoe anymore. She's the Queen of Marsyas,
Oh.
a force to be reckoned with.
And what's fascinating is that her power, it's not about brute force or intimidation. It's about connection to the island, to nature, to the very essence of magic itself.
It's like she draws strength from the island,
Yeah.
from the love and community that Arthur's created. And when she finally unleashes that power, banishing Marble Mall with a wave of her hand, it's breathtaking.
That scene gave me chills. You realize that this is not just a story about a group of magical children finding a home. This is about something much bigger. It's about challenging the status quo, about fighting for the right to exist on your own terms.
Absolutely. But it's not a clean victory, is it? Marble Maw might be gone, but Dekarmi isn't. And Zoe's actions, as necessary as they were, they have consequences.
Exactly. The magical world just got a whole lot more complicated, and Marsyas Island, with its haven of acceptance, is now a beacon of hope and resistance.
And we haven't even talked about Doreen yet. That whole subplot with her machinations within Daikami, it adds another layer of intrigue to the whole story.
She's like a puppet master, isn't she? Working behind the scenes, pulling strings, manipulating events to her own advantage. You're never quite sure what her endgame is, but you know it's going to be big.
Okay, so we've got rising tension, an epic showdown brewing, and a master manipulator lurking in the shadows. Where does Klune take us from here? You'll have to wait for the final part of our deep dive to find out.
Okay, deep breath, everyone, because things are about to get real.
We left off with Marsyas Island forever changed. Zoe's magic radiating outward, Haven expanding, but also painting a target on themselves for Daikami.
It's that classic escalation, isn't it? One side makes a stand, the other tightens its grip. But what makes this so compelling is how Klune makes us feel both sides of the struggle.
Totally. Like, you get why Daikami, especially Router, is freaking out.
Yeah.
Zoe just rewrote the magical map, no WS what chaos that could bring if left unchecked.
Exactly. Router, despite being on the, quote-unquote antagonist side, isn't some mustache-twirling villain. He's seen the damage unchecked magic can do. He's got his own double-again trauma from it. He believes he's doing what's necessary, even if it means crushing this little island of hope.
Which makes it all the more heartbreaking for Arthur. He's not just fighting a faceless organization. Now it's personal. It's his past coming back to haunt him in the form of this man who represents everything he hates, but who also might understand his pain in a way nobody else on the island does.
And that's the brilliance of Klune's writing right there. It'd be easy to just have a clear good versus evil showdown, but instead we get this nuanced dance of right versus right, each side convinced they're saving magic itself, but going about it in completely opposite ways.
Ooh, talk about tension. And just when you think it can't get more tangled, Doreen, that woman, while Marsyas is having its external crisis, she's playing chess, moves 5 steps ahead within Daikami.
She's the embodiment of that quote, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Doreen sees the chaos Zoe caused not as a disaster, but as an opportunity to reshape Daikami to fit her vision, and honey, those visions are rarely sunshine and rainbows.
Which brings us to the climax, and oh boy, is it a climax. Zoe, now a conduit for the island's magic, facing off against Router and the full might of Daikami.
This scene had me flipping pages so fast I nearly sprained a finger. You've got elemental magic versus bureaucratic might, raw power versus centuries of control, but beneath it all, it's a battle for the future of magic itself, conformity or freedom, isolation or belonging.
And without giving too much away, the way Klune brings those themes together, it's not just a fight, it's a statement. He answers the question, what happens when love acceptance, that raw belief in something better, collides with a system built on fear and control?
And the aftermath. Just wow. We see the cost of that battle, the sacrifices made, but we also see that question answered. What if the Haven wasn't the end, but the start?
Now, I won't spoil the ending details for those who haven't had the pleasure yet, but here's what I will say. Klune leaves us with a sense of hope earned, not given easily. That sometimes to build a better world, you got to break down the old one, even if it's scary, even if it hurts.
So there you have it, our deep dive into TJ Klune's Somewhere Beyond the Sea. A story that'll make you laugh, cry, and want to hug the nearest magical creature, maybe just a very accepting friend. But before we go, one last thought to carry with you. Klune asks, what if we embraced difference instead of fearing it? Now go out and make that question your own. Choose kindness, choose acceptance, and maybe, just maybe, we can create a world worthy of a sea slug's elaborate revenge plot via cucumber.